Have you ever watched a flame dance in defiance, flickering brilliantly just before it fades into darkness? It's a paradox of beauty and finality, a last burst of energy before surrendering to the inevitable. Now imagine this flame as you, burning brightly, giving your light, warmth, and essence to someone who doesn't even notice. They bask in the glow, indifferent, as you consume yourself for their comfort. What do they give in return? Silence, apathy, coldness. And yet, you keep burning, hoping that the heat will awaken something in them that will make them see you. Today, I'm here to tell you, stop. Stop feeding the fire that only consumes you. Stop setting yourself ablaze for those who remain unmoved. The truth is hard, but it's freeing. Some people will never feel your warmth, no matter how brightly you burn. Let the flame die. Walk away, not with anger or despair, but with quiet strength. Let your absence speak louder than your efforts ever could. Because here's the Stoic truth. You cannot control how others value your light, but you can choose where to shine it. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is leave them in the cold of their indifference. 1. The harsh reality of human connection. Take a step back and, indeed, observe the world around you. You'll find a landscape of illusions, where sincerity is often another mask people wear to protect their interests. They speak words of loyalty and preach promises of forever, but when the storm hits, their actions betray their claims. It's not malice, it's convenience. For many, it's easier to pretend than to invest genuinely. They don't commit to the weight of what loyalty demands. And yet, here you are, offering more than they could ever understand. You're not just someone who cares. You give your time, effort, and unwavering presence entirely. You see their chaos, pain, and vulnerabilities, and you try to be the anchor they never asked for but desperately need. But what do they do in return? They absorb your kindness without recognition, take your efforts for granted, and dismiss you when you challenge their comfort. Your loyalty becomes invisible to them, a quiet hum in the background of their self-serving lives. You hold on, hoping, waiting, convincing yourself that if you love hard enough and try long enough, they'll finally see you. But here's the truth. People who are blind to your light will never understand its value until they're lost in the darkness you leave behind. Their inability to see you is not your failure, it's theirs. The cruelest reality is that some only learn to value what they have after it's no longer theirs to hold. So stop waiting. Stop giving pieces of yourself to those who don't even notice they're receiving a gift, because you deserve more than being an option in someone else's life. You deserve to be seen, appreciated, and cherished, not as an afterthought, but as the extraordinary presence you are. 2. The power of walking away. There comes a moment when the weight of staying becomes heavier than the fear of leaving. That's when you know it's time to walk away, not as an act of defeat, but as an assertion of your worth. Walking away isn't about anger or revenge, but finally choosing yourself. It's about realizing that no effort will ever be enough for someone who refuses to see your value. You've poured yourself out for them, stretched yourself thin, hoping they'd feel the warmth of your fire. But now, you see the truth. They were never cold or indifferent. And so, you leave, not with rage or dramatic declarations, but with quiet resolve. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them closure. Your absence becomes the loudest statement you'll ever make, echoing in the silence they're left to face. Let them feel the void you leave behind, the emptiness of a life without your light. Understand this. Walking away isn't weakness, it's courage. It's acknowledging that your energy is finite, your time is precious, and your peace is sacred. Every step you take away from them is a step toward reclaiming the person you were before their chaos consumed you. It's a declaration that your well-being matters more than your convenience. And yes, they'll notice. Perhaps not at first, but eventually, They'll feel the coldness of your absence like a weight they can't escape. The laughter, warmth, and stability you brought to their life don't go unnoticed for long. But by then, you'll be far from their reach, standing taller and more accessible than ever. So, don't slam the door behind you. Don't yell or plead or try to make them understand. Just leave. Let your silence speak the words your heart no longer has to carry. Because walking away isn't just about leaving them behind. It's about finding yourself again. And that, above all else, is the most significant victory. 3. Affirming your self-worth. Say it out loud. I am enough. Let the weight of those words settle in your chest. Because for too long, you've tied your value to the approval of someone who couldn't even see the gift you were. You've bent, sacrificed, and given endlessly, hoping they'd wake up to your worth. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. Your worth was never theirs to define. It was never dependent on their recognition. It's yours, unshakable, undeniable, and infinite. When you walk away, you're not just leaving them behind, but stepping into a declaration of self-respect. You affirm that you will no longer be at the table when you bring the feast. They may have dismissed you, ignored you, treated you like an afterthought, but that says everything about them and nothing about you. Their inability to see the brilliance of your light doesn't diminish its radiance. It simply highlights their blindness. Write it down and repeat it. I am enough. I am done. I am free. This isn't just a mantra. It's a promise to yourself, a commitment to never again shrink yourself for someone who doesn't deserve the space you occupy. You've spent so much time giving, pouring out your energy, and fighting for people who wouldn't lift a finger to hold on to you. But now, you're choosing to redirect that energy inward to nurture the parts of yourself you've neglected. Remember, your worth is not up for debate. It's not something they can grant or take away. It exists in the quiet strength of your resilience, the kindness you've shown despite their indifference, and the courage it takes to let go. So, stand tall. Let them choke on the emptiness you leave behind, and let your silence roar louder than any words. Because in the end, this isn't about them. It's about you, reclaiming your power, and finally realizing that you have always been enough. 4. The transformative power of stories. Let me tell you a story, not just any story, but one that echoes the heartbreak you've carried and the lessons you've yet to embrace. It's not some distant tale. It's real, raw, and resonates with the truth many of us are too afraid to admit. Imagine someone like Anna. She was generous to a fault, pouring her love and energy into a partner who saw her as a convenience. To her, it was love, a connection worth fighting for. To him, it was comfort, a fleeting arrangement he could discard when the novelty wore off. Anna gave him everything, her time, trust, and unwavering support. She listened to his troubles, even though her needs were ignored. She sacrificed her peace to hold him up, to soothe his storms, while her world quietly unraveled. But when she needed him, indeed required him, he was not distracted, not busy, but absent, choosing someone else's laughter over her tears. One day, she discovered the betrayal, not through his confession, but through the subtle, cutting truths only silence reveals. Text messages, late-night conversations, the undeniable proof that he wasn't just neglecting her, he was replacing her. Anna begged for answers. She begged for love. She begged for him to care. And in her desperation, she handed him more power, more control. As her heart shattered into pieces, he didn't bother to pick up. But here's where Anna's story changes, where it becomes more than a tragedy. She didn't stay in that space of brokenness forever. One night, standing before her reflection, she realized the person staring back at her was unrecognizable. Her spirit, fire, and strength were buried beneath the weight of a love that wasn't love. And that's when she made the choice. Not to fight for him, but to fight for herself. She walked away with quiet, unwavering strength, not with drama or explanations. She left behind everything that tied her to him, not to punish him, but to free herself. And when he finally noticed her absence, when the emptiness began to creep in, she was already gone, building a life he no longer had the privilege to be part of. This isn't just Anna's story. It's yours. It's mine. It's the story of anyone who loved profoundly and received too little in return. It's a reminder that walking away isn't about what you lose but what you gain. The strength to see your worth. The courage to let go, the wisdom to choose yourself over someone who never would. And when they realize what they've lost and come crawling back, don't let their regret tempt you. Their pain isn't your responsibility. Their loss isn't your burden. Let their silence mirror the void they left in your life. And let your story, like Anna's, be one of transformation. Not because they deserved it, but because you always did. 5. Turning pain into power. Pain, sharp, relentless, and consuming, can feel like a prison, chaining you to memories and emotions that refuse to let go. But what if I told you that pain isn't your captor? It's your teacher, your forge, and your most significant opportunity for growth. Like fire that tempers steel, your pain can shape you into something more substantial, unbreakable. You just have to decide to let it. Let's be clear. This isn't about ignoring the hurt, the sleepless nights, the hollow ache in your chest, the questions that circle endlessly in your mind. Those are real. They demand to be felt. But feeling pain isn't the same as being consumed by it. The Stoics teach us that suffering isn't in the events, but in our perception of them. What happened to you isn't the defining moment. How you respond to it shapes your future. Begin by shifting your perspective. Pain isn't here to punish you, but to show you where you need to grow. It strips away illusions and reveals the truths you've been avoiding. It's a mirror, reflecting the wounds inflicted by others and the parts of yourself that need healing. Let the tears fall, but as they do, imagine them washing away the versions of yourself that settled for less, that allowed others to take more than they gave. Then, take that pain and transform it. Channel it into something meaningful. Rebuild the pieces of your life you've neglected. Reignite the passions you set aside for someone who didn't deserve them. Strengthen the boundaries you let others cross. This isn't about revenge or proving something to anyone else. It's about proving to yourself that you are more than what happened to you. And here's the beauty of it. Pain leaves behind a gift. It grants you clarity, resilience, and a new understanding of your worth. The scars it leaves aren't marks of weakness. They're badges of survival. Reminders that you endured and emerged stronger. Every moment of anguish you faced is a step toward becoming the version of yourself you were always meant to be. So, the next time pain threatens to overwhelm you, don't fight it. Let it shape you. Let it remove the parts of your life that no longer serve you. And when you look back at this moment, you won't see it as the time you were broken. You'll see it as the moment you begin to rise. Say it with me. Pain is my power. Growth is my choice. I will rise. Let those words become your foundation as you transform your pain into the most significant strength you've ever known. 6. Do they truly return? Understanding their motives through a Stoic lens. They always come back, don't they? The ones who dismissed you, overlooked you, treated your love as an afterthought. They return when the void you left becomes unbearable. But before you let their return stir old emotions, ask yourself, why are they here? Is it because they've changed or fear the emptiness you left behind? The Stoics remind us to question intentions, not just actions, and in their return lies a more profound truth. Most people don't return out of love or genuine regret. They come back because your absence disrupted the ease of their life. They miss the comfort you provided, the stability you offered, the effort you gave. But do they miss you, the person, in all your depth and complexity? Or do they simply miss what you did for them? Reflect on this distinction. It's vital. Your silence and departure create a mirror they can't ignore. It forces them to confront themselves, their choices, and the space they once filled. And that reflection? It's rarely flattering. They return not because they've grown, but because your absence is now a weight they don't know how to carry. They're drawn back, not by love, but by a desire to escape the discomfort you left behind. And so, when they return, be cautious. Their words will be sweet, laced with promises of change and whispers of regret. But words are easy. Transformation is not. Look at their actions. Have they faced the truths they avoided? Have they done the work to become better? Or are they merely seeking the convenience of who you were to them? The Stoics teach us to focus on what we can control, and we can prevent this. How we respond. Do they indeed return? Yes, often they do, but rarely for the reasons you deserve. Their return is not your victory, it's your test. A test of how far you've grown, how much you've learned, and whether you will allow the past to reclaim you. Remember, closure doesn't come from their words. It comes from your decision to move forward, untethered by their attempts to re-enter your life. Let them return if they must, but let them find a space where you once stood. Let your growth, strength, and peace be the answer they never expected. Say it with me. I don't need their return. I don't need their validation. I am enough. Because when they come back, and they will, you'll realize their regret is just another chapter in a story you've already outgrown. 7. Testing their loyalty. So, they've returned, bearing apologies and promises of change. Their words drip with sincerity, but remember this. Words are cheap and intentions are invisible. Loyalty is not declared. It is proven through consistent action. If you're tempted to believe them, pause. Take a breath. Let time, not emotions, guide your judgment. A Stoic knows that trust is not given freely. It must be earned. The first test is time. Anyone can appear reformed momentarily, but the change reveals itself over weeks, months, and behavior patterns. Observe. Are their actions aligned with their words? Or are they slipping back into the habits that broke you in the first place? Someone truly loyal doesn't rush. They remain steadfast, willing to invest the time needed to rebuild trust. The second test is accountability. Bring up the pain they caused, the lies, the betrayal, the neglect. Do they own their actions without excuses? Or do they shift the blame, rationalize their behavior, and minimize your hurt? True loyalty faces discomfort without deflecting. If they cannot sit with the weight of their mistakes, they haven't grown and are not ready to be trusted. Next, observe how they handle boundaries. Do they respect the space you need to heal or push for immediate forgiveness and access to your life? Their patience, or lack thereof, will reveal their motives. Someone who truly values you will understand that trust is a process, not an entitlement. Finally, trust your instincts. Pay attention to how their presence makes you feel. Do you feel secure, or does doubt still linger like a shadow in the room? The Stoics teach us to rely on reason and intuition, for our minds often sense what our hearts are hesitant to accept. Here's the hard truth. Most people who return are not coming back for you. They're coming back for themselves. They miss the comfort, the stability, the version of you that tolerated their flaws. If they fail these tests, they've shown you that their return is not a sign of growth, but a reminder of why you walked away. So, stand firm. Guard your peace as if it were your most precious treasure, because it is. Let their actions speak louder than their apologies. And if their loyalty doesn't withstand the test, let them go without regret. Say it with me. Loyalty is earned, not owed. My peace is my priority. Because the ones who truly value you won't just pass these tests, they'll surpass them, proving that they deserve the privilege of standing by your side. 8. Reclaiming your power. So, they passed your tests, or at least it seems that way. But let's be clear, passing a test doesn't grant them unrestricted access to your life. This isn't a welcome mat rolled out for someone to trample over again. This is your life, and boundaries are the gates that protect the sanctuary of your peace. The Stoics remind us that control over our mind and spirit is the ultimate form of freedom. Boundaries are how you enforce that control. Think of boundaries as the lines that define your worth. They are not meant to keep others out, but to ensure only those who respect your values are allowed in. A person who truly cares about you will see your boundaries not as obstacles, but as guides to understanding how to love and respect you properly. On the other hand, those who push, manipulate, or guilt-trip you into lowering them only prove why those boundaries were necessary in the first place. Start with time. Just because someone returns doesn't mean they get full access to your energy. Time is your most valuable resource. Spend it wisely. Do they show consistency and patience, or do they demand immediate attention? Someone who values you will honor the time it takes to rebuild trust and connection. Next is emotional energy. You've already given so much of yourself, pieces that were often taken for granted. Not this time. Your emotional well-being is no longer a currency for them to spend freely. Make it clear that mutual effort is required. They must contribute as much as possible if they want a place in your life. Finally, reinforce boundaries of respect. If they genuinely care, they'll listen when you explain what you need to feel safe and valued. If they brush aside your requests and act as though they're entitled to forgiveness or a second chance, then their intentions are clear. They haven't changed. They're simply hoping you have. And what happens when they push? When they test the strength of your boundaries, insisting that you're being too harsh or distant, that's when you stand firm. Boundaries aren't there to make people comfortable. They're there to protect you. Someone unwilling to respect them is someone unworthy of your time and trust. Remember this. Boundaries are not walls. They're standards. They don't isolate you. They elevate you. They create a space where only those who align with your values and respect your worth can exist. Say it with me. I protect my peace. I guard my worth. I stand tall. Let those words be your armor as you navigate this process. Reclaiming your power isn't about shutting people out, but letting the right people in. And the right people will never make you compromise your peace to accommodate their comfort. Conclusion. Walking away isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter where you take center stage. It's a declaration to the world and yourself that you are no longer willing to settle for less than you deserve. Every step you take away from the chaos and toward your peace is a step toward reclaiming your power. The opinions, validation, or approval of others no longer binds you. You are free, stronger, wiser, and untouchable. Let them wonder why their world feels colder without you. Let them sit in the silence you left behind, questioning everything they once took for granted. And when they realize your absence is louder than your words ever could be, remember this. Their regret is not your responsibility. Their loss is not your burden. You've done the work, endured the pain, and now you're stepping into the life you've always deserved. Say it with me. I protect my peace. I honor my worth. I choose myself. Write it down, hold it close, and let it guide you as you move forward. And as you rise, let this truth sink in. Your value was never dependent on their ability to see it. If this message resonated with you, don't stop here. Join a community of like-minded individuals on the same journey of self-discovery and growth. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another video. Let's continue this conversation, share these truths, and empower each other to live authentically and boldly. Together, we can embrace the lessons of Stoicism and transform our lives, one decision at a time. You are enough. You are free. And this is just the beginning.